So I've got an interesting story. It is about the Ram X-mount phone holder that I've got right here on my handlebars. And basically it's a story about the only time this thing has ever failed me. Because this thing, since I bought it about 3 years ago, I think, has been awesome. Let's just jump right into the story. So it's sometime in April of 2015, and I am riding my motorcycle out on I-95 South in New Jersey for the first time since the winter. I had been on a few smaller rides, but this is my first time doing a bigger ride on it when I was actually moving it a pretty far distance. And so, as I'm riding it, I opened it up a little bit on the highway. Now, FZ09 being a naked bike, has no windshield, I don't have the cowl on or anything like that. And I-95 was so empty that I was able to bring the bike all the way up to its top speed several times for an extended period of time in a way that I would say is safe. Safe to who? That's debatable, but safe for me. It was a wide open road. There weren't a lot of other cars on there. Top speed on this motorcycle is 132 miles an hour. That's what it's electronically limited to. And what happened was I opened it up all the way to 130, 132, and basically, you know, on this bike, because there's no windscreen, you're in a deep tuck like this as you're riding, and I had a backpack and some other gear, and I'm riding along, and after about 10 to 15 seconds, my phone, this iPhone 6 Plus and this exact Ram mount just absolutely detached from the handlebars and drilled me in the chest. I was wearing headphones, so I was listening to music. My headphones, my Apple headphones, were attached to my iPhone, and so there was a white cord here connecting my helmet to this. So as this phone flew off of the handlebars and drilled me in the chest, I took the impact like this. You know, it hit me, I turned up like this a little bit because I was like, what the fuck? And then as the phone fell down to my left side, it yanked the headphones just temporarily enough to get my head to snap down like this, and the last thing I saw was my new iPhone 6 Plus hit the pavement and skip once before I looked up. Well, I was still doing 120 or whatever it was on the highway after taking the hit, and the first thing I did was, first of all, try to correct the speed wobble. At 130 something miles an hour, when you get hit by something, even these little movements really can get the bike to start doing this. I got lucky enough to the point where I was able to catch it. I heavily hit the brakes. I mean, I was full in on my right front, full in on my rear, shifting down. I pulled over to the right side of the road as quickly as I could, and I parked my motorcycle and was like, what the fuck do I do now? I cannot call anyone or text anyone to tell them what just happened or ask them for help. And so I parked my bike. It's a hot day. It was the hottest day of April so far. It was like 80 something degrees. I start walking all the way down the highway, and I walked full gear, helmet, obviously a motorcyclist along the highway while all these other cars were zooming by, and I don't know, a lot of people were staring over at the side, and I walked for at least 15 minutes to the point where I turned around and I could not see my bike because of the heat simmering up off of the highway, because it was so far and there was like that mirage-ish type of heat that you could see coming off of the highway. I walked maybe 50 more yards, and right when I was about to give up looking for the phone, I could just see something in traffic flopping along every time another vehicle would run over it. And I distinctly remember the first car I saw run over the phone was a white Honda Odyssey minivan. And oh my god, the phone was just flipping and flailing, and every time it would get run over, it would skip, you know, another 10 or 15 feet. And I was just like, holy shit. And you know, this is before I had the GoPro, so unfortunately I don't have the footage of it. I waited till there was a massive break in the traffic, and so I ran out from the outside shoulder all the way to the left lane where it was. I picked up the phone, and it looked almost exactly like what you might imagine it would look like if it were a scene from a movie where they like had the perfect prop to make it look like this phone had been run over. The screen was gone, zero glass whatsoever. All that was left was the back of the phone and all of these kind of like wires and computer chips in there, and a perfect tire mark going across the back plate of the phone. I grabbed it and sprinted back to the edge of the highway, and there were no issues with cars there. I was holding my obliterated cell phone in my hands, and I was like, I cannot tell anyone about this. There's no way I can notify any of my friends, family, any of those things what just happened. To make matters even more intense, I had an interview over the phone, and I had already gone through, like, believe it or not, nearly 20 rounds of interviews for this particular type of job. That's pretty common, but I had already gone through nearly 20 interviews, and I just needed to speak with 1 or 2 more guys before I was through and hired. And I had one of those calls 30 minutes after the time of this incident, and I told him he could reach me on my cell phone. So he was going to be calling my cell phone number, and my cell phone was currently in my hand, exploded. So I was completely worried that I was going to miss the interview. He was going to think that I was blowing him off, and I was not going to get hired. And so I start walking back toward my motorcycle, and now I'm walking with traffic. So I'm no longer walking toward oncoming traffic, and I can't see what's happening behind me. And out of nowhere, as I'm walking, maybe 5 minutes in my walk back, this car pulls up right alongside me, and I have my helmet on too, so I don't really have great peripheral vision on my left or right. And my hearing is numbed out because of my helmet too, so I could not even hear this guy pulling up. He pulls up as I'm walking on the shoulder right next to me, and it's this crazy fucking handlebar mustache, long ass ponytail, but young looking dude covered in these weird fucking tattoos. The weirdest part was that his eyes weren't even. His eyes were like cocked or something. And before anything happened, he was already had his window down. He pulled up right next to me and he screams, "Hey dude, you need a ride?" And I could not see him coming or hear him, and so when it happened and he was next to me, I involuntarily did a fucking karate kick. I was like, what the fuck, man? You know, like, you scared the fucking shit out of me. And he was like, you need a ride? And he's kind of rolling alongside me at walking pace now, and I'm like, no, I'm good, man, I'm good. And he goes, all right, and then without looking over his shoulder or checking his mirrors or anything, he just swerves over to the left, back into the rightmost lane of the highway. This 18-wheeler is coming barreling down at 55, 60 miles an hour, whatever he was doing, and this guy pulled out doing 10 right in front of him, and the guy had maybe 100 yards or so, and the truck immediately slammed on all of its brakes and started skipping on the highway like it was going and there was a screeching noise. He laid all the way into the air horn, and I realized as I looked back and saw that happening that there was probably about to be a massive accident, and I immediately turned and sprinted off the highway into the field toward the woods because I didn't want to be anywhere near the impending collision. And I glanced back over my shoulder just in time to see the car who had pulled over to try and help me swerve back off of the highway onto the shoulder right as the truck went careening straight through the right lane where he would have been. Out of sheer timing and luck, the collision was avoided. The truck flew right past him as he was on the shoulder, and then just like nothing had happened, it looked like he repeated the exact same motion and pulled back into the right lane and drove off behind the truck. And so luckily the car swerved out of the way in time and there was no collision. You know, looking back at it, it's kind of funny, but while it happened, it really could have been dangerous, and so I'm just thankful that nothing bad happened, and hopefully you guys can learn from this story and prevent anything like that from happening to you guys if you ever get that mount, or you know some people that are using that mount. Anyways, as it turns out, I raced to the Apple store as quickly as I could, got my phone replaced, and I was able to reschedule the interview with the guy that I missed. He and I spoke the next day, and I found out 2 or 3 days later that I was going to be offered the job, and so that was awesome news. And so I guess, you know, this all turned out to be okay. I don't consider exposing this to wind of over 100 miles an hour really to be within the suggested use of this type of tool here, this Ram mount. So I can't say that I'm disappointed or upset that this thing didn't hang on to the phone. Really, I think if you're going to that speed, the onus is on the rider to think about all the things, all of their equipment, and whether it's able to handle that degree of speed or that change in environment. That's just a funny little story about this Ram X mount. Oh my God, Jesus fuck. Wow. What the I can't believe that just fucking happened. Anyways, that's my story about this Ram X mount, this X grip. Toss that guy right back on there. The irony, the absolute irony of me almost losing my phone while retelling the story of how I almost lost my phone. Oh my God. That would have been hilarious. And that would have been hilarious, and I would have been furious at the same time. If you guys want to see more stuff like that, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I'm going to keep bringing content like that. And until next time, guys, peace.